The haunted streets, the ghosts of my childhood. Driving through my old neighborhood felt like stepping into a time machine. The familiar cracked sidewalks, the oak trees we used to climb, and the worn-down houses. Everything was exactly as I remembered it. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly as memories flooded back, pulling me deeper into the nostalgia of my youth. This place had once been my home, but the years had passed, and I had left it, and everything that happened here, far behind. Or at least I thought I had. As I rounded the corner near the old park, something caught my eye. A figure standing by the rusted swing set. I blinked, trying to adjust my vision, but it was unmistakable. It was Lucas, my childhood best friend. His blonde hair tousled like it always had been, wearing the same striped shirt I remembered. He raised his hand as if to wave, but there was something wrong with his face. His eyes were empty, hollow. I shook my head, heart racing. Lucas had died over 20 years ago in a freak accident, one that we never talked about. This couldn't be real. I sped past the park, trying to tell myself it was just my imagination, just a trick of the mind. But as I turned onto the next street, more figures appeared. Jenny, the girl from 2 doors down, was standing on the curb, her hair blowing in the wind, her face pale and distant. She had disappeared the summer after 6th grade, and no one ever found out what happened to her. My breathing quickened as I noticed others scattered along the streets, friends I hadn't thought about in years. Every one of them had met a tragic end, and every one of them was now watching me, waiting. I slammed on the brakes when a small figure stepped directly into the street ahead. It was Timmy, the youngest of our group. He had drowned in the creek behind our houses, but there he stood, dripping wet, water pooling around his feet. I could barely hear myself breathe as I watched him raise a hand to point at me, accusingly, his mouth moving silently, forming words I couldn't hear. I tried to pull the car in reverse to get out of this nightmare, but the engine stalled, leaving me trapped. My chest tightened with fear as the ghosts began to close in around the car, their faces pressing against the windows, their cold, dead eyes staring right through me. My hands trembled as I fumbled for my phone, desperate for help. But when I looked down at the screen, it was covered in dirt and grime. Messages appeared one after another. "You can't run. You remember. We know what you did." I realized then this wasn't about them. It was about me, and the secrets I thought I had buried all those years ago, secrets that had come back to haunt me, dragging me into a past I had never truly escaped. And as the faces of my lost friends peered closer, one question echoed in my mind. What do they want from me? The answer I feared was something I wasn't ready to face. My pulse pounded in my ears as the air in the car grew thick, suffocating. The windows fogged up, but through the mist, I could still make out the shapes of the figures surrounding me. Jenny, Lucas, Timmy, all of them. Their hands pressed against the glass, leaving cold, wet imprints as they stared, unblinking. My heart raced as I frantically turned the key in the ignition, praying for the engine to start. But the car remained silent, refusing to save me from whatever nightmare I'd driven into. Timmy's small face appeared at the driver's side window, his eyes wide and soulless. "You can't run forever, Jason," his voice whispered, though his lips never moved. The others echoed the same phrase, their voices distant yet sharp, as if the words were being whispered directly into my mind. I slammed my hands against the steering wheel, panic boiling over. What were they talking about? What did they mean? The memories came rushing back like a flood, flashes of that summer, of things I'd tried so hard to forget. Late-night dares by the creek, secret promises made in the dark, and the incident, the one that changed everything. I had buried it deep, convinced I could forget, move on, but they hadn't forgotten. They had come back to make sure I remembered every detail. "Jason, you know what you did," Jenny's voice hissed from the back seat. I whipped around to find her sitting there, soaked, her hands clenched into fists, her face twisted with anger. "You all made a pact, but you were the one who broke it." Her eyes locked onto mine, and suddenly I couldn't breathe. The weight of guilt pressed down on me, crushing my chest. She was right. I had broken the pact, run away, left it all behind, and now they wanted me to pay for it. I threw open the door, desperate to escape. The moment my feet hit the pavement, I was surrounded by the ghosts of my past. I backed away, stumbling, but they moved with me, closing the distance, their whispers growing louder, more insistent. "You can't run," Lucas's voice growled. His once friendly face now twisted into something monstrous. Suddenly, the ground beneath me cracked, and I felt myself being pulled downward. I tried to fight it, clawing at the pavement as my legs sunk into the earth. The ghosts stood in a circle around me, watching, their expressions cold and detached. As I was dragged further into the dirt, I screamed, pleading for help, but the only response was Timmy's voice, eerily calm. "You'll remember soon enough, Jason, and when you do, we'll be waiting." The last thing I saw before the darkness swallowed me whole was their faces, still staring, still watching, and then I was gone. But the question lingered in my mind as the earth closed over me. What was I about to remember? Let me know in the comments below if you want to hear more from this story. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.